Ellen.
You ready?
Ready?
Okay.
응답하라 여친. Go to the into the shit.
Back to the 경 to the chu. Jane. You look lovely.
Oh my gosh,
in
we're
golden.
channeling
again
summer.
vibing.
Yes.
We're ready for summer. It's hot in the 80s today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hope it doesn't get to 80s.
That's
Wednesday, earlier in the week, it was very, very hot.
Yeah.
We had to bring like all the AC units like out of the garage and
Oh,
install
it's
them
that
because we don't have central
time.
AC. Yep. Yeah. Oh man, I wanted to talk to you about something because we chat frequently about how busy we are
Yes.
with all these little unpaid jobs.
Oh, favors.
Favors? Are they like jobs or favors? I'm not sure. But
Isn't it always awkward? You're like, so is there a budget for this?
right.
Ugh,
Right.
I hate it.
Yes.
I hate that awkward place where people think that what we do is not work, but it is because they're
Mhm.
clearly asking for someone to
Yes.
do the thing
Totally.
that only certain people can do.
Totally. And it's always because like we come in because I feel like we have just enough passable skills. And we cannot call ourselves like professionals of
We're a jack of all trades, but nothing specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a Jill of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
Which I've
Master
heard
of
said
none.
is
Yeah.
is better to be that than a master of one. Okay, Trevor
That's
Noah
true.
said that.
Like
yeah.
a well-rounded person.
Yes.
Versus someone who can only do that
Yes.
one thing.
But it makes sense with kind of like the spaces that we're in.
Yeah.
But I got roped into translating, interpreting for a Korean filmmaker at the Seattle International Film Festival.
I know
for
you
SIF.
got roped in because you are always not like volunteering for that kind of, like you're like, it'd have to be pulling teeth to get you to do this.
Not like raising my hand.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like, our primary job is raising kids.
Right.
Is our-
Motherhood
yes.
to the core.
Yes. When we're recording in the studio, our kids are in school.
Yeah.
Like when we're recording or when we're putting out episodes in the summer, it's because we've batch recorded leading
Yeah.
up to the summer and we're
Everything
out-
is secondary, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
So, I have a friend who texts me out of the blue and asks me if I'm free the following day for about
Wow, short
3
notice.
hours. So short notice.
3 hours?
3
That's
hours,
a lot
right?
of time. That's a chunk of time.
It's a chunk of time from 11 to 2 on a Wednesday. And now Wednesdays are early release days for my kids' school.
Okay.
And they get out at like 1:10.
Yeah,
And then
same,
they
yeah.
go directly to their after-school art
Yeah.
program, which I have to drive them to. And so I said, no, I'm not. And she said, oh, okay, well, that's too bad because I have the film festival SIF asking me if I know somebody who can interpret for a filmmaker, a Korean filmmaker who's coming, and they have a movie screening at the film festival, but they're doing a school visit and they don't have an interpreter
Okay.
lined up. My first question is, why don't they have an interpreter lined up for somebody who is flying in internationally?
Right.
For an event that you do every year, and I imagine is like Christmas. You have a whole year to plan for, right?
Yes.
And this is probably not your first rodeo.
Right.
We've screened Korean movies before.
It's becoming very common.
Right?
Yeah.
And so my friend said, like, whoever they lined up fell through, right?
Okay.
I said, immediately my first thought was not for me to do it, but I had somebody in mind that loves this kind of stuff. And she's like 1.5 generation, like bilingual, totally bilingual. Like I know she would be great because she's kind of like my go-to friend to come with me to book talks, or we've also gone to like SIF screenings together before. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is kind of her jam. But she's also a stay-at-home mom
Right.
with like an actual job now. She kind of went back to work part-time.
I love how you said an actual
An actual
job.
job, like she's a physician, right?
Oh,
So like an
geez.
actual
Right.
job. So
Okay.
I have to check with her, like, okay,
Yeah.
let me get back to you. And of course, she's busy.
Yes. I mean, it's such a short notice. The
Yes.
next day? Are you
The
kidding
next
me?
day,
Yeah.
like 11 to 2. So
Yeah.
like zero notice, right? And my friend's like, okay, Jane, but I really think that you like this would be up your alley. And I'm like, I am genuinely interested, like, uh, but I don't think I have the qualifications to
Yeah.
do that. Like,
The technical translating
is
is
very
hardcore.
hard, and
Yeah.
you're doing it live.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not simultaneously, right? You're doing it like you're translating kind of like sentence by sentence type of
Yes.
thing.
And
But
it's
you're on the spot.
professional
It's
speak.
you need a
So,
professional to do that.
yeah. No, I
Um
mean, like, the professional
oh,
verbiage is
yes.
so much, like, more intricate
Exactly.
and separate from
Right.
casual speaking,
Yes.
like
I'm
what
like,
we do.
we're
Yeah.
conversational, but if you're like, it's industry specific, right? So
Yeah.
this is about like film and cinematography and
Yeah. And, like, reading, like, Korean papers, very
very,
formalized.
very
So,
formal.
yeah.
And
That is daunting.
so daunting, right? Then my next victim was Sam Cho, our
Oh,
beloved port commissioner, because I know his English, I mean his Korean is very good, but he's like an official, right? So I'm like, I don't know that he would be just like available during the
yeah.
daytime, but I thought like Sam has a network of Korean
Oh, that's
professionals
true. Yes,
and he could
yes.
put that question out. But the notice, I had less than 24-hour
Yeah,
notice.
again, terrible
So,
notice.
of
How
course,
could they have waited this
I
long?
know. I
They should
know.
have. I mean, yes, the
SIF,
first person
if
fell
anybody
through.
with connections, with SIF connections is listening to this, you need to better prepare
Yeah,
next year, please. Because it's
yeah,
not a good look when Seattle is welcoming uh, a Korean filmmaker
yeah,
and you're having them go like do these school visits and events, SIF events under your name for you not to have a professional interpreter lined up.
yeah.
Like, so anyways, like I texted Sam. He's on a plane to New York,
Of course he is.
right?
They're
He's
all
like, I'm
those
so
bitches are
sorry.
always on a plane to
Yeah.
somewhere when you need something.
You can't blame him, right? And I'm
I
like,
know,
a
I know.
tall
I
ass.
don't know how they do it. They travel so much. Yes.
Yeah. So then like the hours are ticking by. Like my friend's getting really nervous. And I said, okay, I think I can do it.
You're so good. You're a good friend.
But in my mind, I could only visualize like Korean director Bong Joon-ho
Yes,
and
that's who I think of when I think Korean director.
his professional interpreter when they
Yeah.
were, doing all the award
Yeah.
shows for
Oh, yeah,
Parasite
yeah,
and
yeah.
how professional she was. Like she
Yeah.
was a young woman, I think, right? And she
Right.
did like all
Yes.
the whole media tour
Yeah.
with him and was just like so skilled in
So on top of it.
translating,
Yeah.
interpreting both
Yeah.
ways. Um and I knew going in, okay, like it is going to be easier for me to digest and interpret in English than it is for me to interpret in Korean to her, right? Like,
Mhm.
obviously, because if I'm hearing something in English, for me to interpret that and translate that and speak to her in Korean and pose the
Mhm.
question, that's innately gonna be inherently gonna be harder to
Mhm.
do because
Yes.
my understanding of my command of English is much better
Mhm.
than Korean because I'm,
Yeah.
a
I mean,
native
there's just
English
like
speaker and
words that you know, but you don't frequently hear. So then, like, you
right.
grasp for it,
Yes.
and it's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did was I rearranged like the kids' day and after school schedule because I'm like
Ugh,
they
it
can
takes
come.
so
I
much.
know they can come home by themselves and get started on like their homework or whatever, and then I just shifted. I was able to move like their art class to the following day.
Okay.
So I got in contact with the SIF people and I said, listen, I am by no means a professional. And they're like, oh, no, that's fine. Like, it's usually super informal. It's like high school kids. Like, they don't ask a lot of questions, but it's really, listen, you're just moral support for her. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that. And they're like, and if they get like, they'll have like a Q&A after she shows her film trailer and
Mm.
maybe some other clips. And it's really just for, um, to get like young, film film students kind of interested and
Mm.
hyped up about like the SIF programming. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that. So I look on Instagram
Uh-huh.
and DM the filmmaker, and I
Okay.
try to like do a little studying and research
You're so
on figure out like what her movie is about. And
This is Jane.
I'm
She's always,
not
it's
going to
that
go into the
journalist in you,
fire
right?
like unprepared. So I DM her, and mind you, I'm like, oh no, I'm overselling my Korean skills because it's always easier to like text in
Oh, that's
Korean,
so
right?
true.
And
Right.
I
You
could do
can
like text to
correct.
speak,
Yes. Mhm.
like talk to text, I mean. So
Absolutely.
I just introduced myself and I said, I'm going to be helping you interpret tomorrow at the school. And she said, like, oh, so excited to meet you. So we decide to meet the next day at the school. So I get there, and it's Edmonds Woodway High School, and they tell us it's just so there's the filmmaker. She's like a young, cool Gen Z filmmaker. And I'm
Oh,
very excited to see her movie.
nice.
It's called Summer's Camera, and it
Okay.
actually did win like a film, an award at SIF.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it a short?
It's not a short, it's a feature film, but it's her
Wow.
debut feature film. And it
Wow.
already screened at Jeonju Film Festival in
Nice.
Korea. And then the Seattle one was the
Did you
North
watch it?
American premiere. I did watch it because of what's going to transpire. So I
Okay.
go to the school visit, and thankfully we find out that we're only going to one class instead of like I thought we were touring multiple classrooms, but
Okay.
there's one film class, which I think
Great.
that's so cool that high schoolers
That's
have film
yeah. How come
curriculum.
we didn't get cool
I
shit like
know. It was like
this?
the coolest elective.
Yeah.
And these students there's like 20 kids in the
A
classroom.
filmmaker, a
Yes.
film director is coming to
Yes.
your
An
school?
actual feature film director
Jesus.
coming to school. And there were actual students in the class who were on the jury for SIF.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Oh
they
my
were excited.
God.
Like they knew, like a handful of them already knew about this movie. A handful of them had seen the movie because they're on the jury, and then so they knew who she was. So obviously, the Q&A, they told us that there were not going to be many questions. It was 2 hours of questions from the
Whoa.
students because these are intelligent, engaged high
Actually,
school
yeah, I
students.
thought that. I was like, wait, they're film majors. What I mean, like film specific kids.
Yeah.
Why would they not have a ton of
Yeah,
questions?
they had a ton of questions ranging from technical all the way to like kind of personal about career. Like,
Oh my
these questions were
goodness.
like, what were some of the challenges you ran into when you're
Oh,
composing a scene?
how do you say challenge in Korean?
어려웠던 점?
Oh.
So luckily, and to the filmmaker's credit, her name is Divine.
Her name is
Sung,
Divine?
Divine Sung. And get this, her Korean name is 성스러운. Her name is 3 syllables, 스러운,
Wow.
and her last name is Sung, right? So in English, her name
성스러운
is
성?
성스러운 is her name. Song is her last name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. That is very
Right?
unusual.
I was like, you have the perfect name for a filmmaker.
wow.
So her name is Divine, which 성스러운 means like sacred,
Wow.
right? Or it means divine in Korean. And it's
So she like just translated her Korean name.
yes, but
That's
I thought that was
amazing.
like brilliant.
That's so
So
great.
I'm like, I hope she has like
Way
a long
cooler
career.
than Ellen or
Jane.
Jane.
Yeah. So cool, right? So I was happy to be there, but like I was happy to be done. Like after that school visit, it was like
You were out.
2 o'clock. Like I came home like close to 3 o'clock. So my kids had been home alone for like 2 hours. And I was just happy to be done, right?
Yeah.
An hour later, I get a text from the SIF people. We had a misunderstanding for tomorrow's screening. Are you available for the
Again?
interpretation? Now, this is for the actual movie screening, right? So different audience. Like who attends film festivals? It's like movie lovers,
Right.
movie buffs.
Yes.
I'm like, I can't do a Q&A for like, and I said, I'm not a professional. Then this is their response, like, oh no, like we actually don't have a budget for a professional. We're just looking for somebody who
Oh, there it is.
we're looking for somebody who is like better than like, Duolingo trained in Korean. And I'm like,
Ew.
do you
Do you
like
hear
you're totally
yourself?
undermining the skill that it takes to live interpret at an
That's so
event.
gross. I can't believe they said it. Did they really say it like that?
They said it like that.
I'm so
They
annoyed.
said it like that. And I said, okay, like
Then you do a bitch.
and but
Don't-
my friend who reached out to me the day before to arrange this, she's Korean too, but she said, Jane, I think there was a misunderstanding because when I told them I could come to the screening, they thought I was agreeing to do the interpretation, but I can't. Like I always like I can't do that.
Why can't she do it?
Her Korean is not great.
Oh.
Not that mine is much better, but
Jane, you
I
do
can
sell yourself
speak, I
short.
can
Your Korean is
understand.
great.
No, but Ellen, I was studying cinematography language, like, and I
Jane,
called
fuck
my parents.
that.
I called my parents like 3 times, and I was like, "How would you say this?" And so I asked the SIF person. I said, "Listen," because they were doing a screening that night too after the school visit. So it was like
Wow.
school visit screening, and then the next day screening afternoon, right? So I said, if there's a way for me to like, hey, can you record kind of like the Q&A tonight? Because I want to see what kinds of questions come up. And granted, the school visit was like 2 hours long,
Yeah.
right? And so it was like 2 hours of Q&A.
Yeah.
And then the screening, it's going to be like they watch the movie and then they were like, it's at max like 15, 20 minutes of Q&A from the
Okay.
audience.
Uh-huh.
So I get a video recording like in the evening and I'm like listening to the questions. I'm like, okay, it's kind of like the questions that you would imagine. Like, can you talk about like what inspired you? Like, was it your
Yes.
personal
Uh-huh.
experience that inspired
Oh, yeah.
you
How do
for?
you say inspire in Korean?
So this one I learned it 영감. Uh-huh. 영감 어디서 받았어요? Like, where did you
That's not a,
receive
yeah.
inspiration? But that's not in my everyday language. Of course,
No.
you don't talk about. Yeah, it doesn't ever
That
come up
sounds
in
like the
like
word
colloquial.
grandpa.
Oh, 영감. Yeah,
영감님.
영감님.
I would
Yeah.
have never thought that.
Yeah. Uh, so it was to my advantage that I had the second screening, right? So I kind of
Yeah.
knew, like, had a heads up of like what kind of questions she would get.
Yes.
So, and I also connected and bonded with Divine, with the filmmaker,
Oh,
because this
that's
was her
amazing.
first visit in America, right? And I'm like, I want to make
Wow.
sure that you have a good time in Seattle, that you feel like you're taken care of.
Yeah.
So when she asked me, we exchanged numbers and stuff. So she was texting me after the school visit, like, oh, are you going to be there tomorrow too? And I said,
Oh.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can do that. I will see. And so later that evening was when I confirmed with her, like, okay, I will be there, because
Uh-huh.
I got a video of the Q&A, like a clip of it. And
Okay.
after I saw like how that interpreter handled it, I don't think she's a professional either. I think
Yeah.
she's just like a bilingual person.
Right.
I was like, okay, if she can do it, I think I can do it too.
Yeah.
Um Inevitably, like when I was listening to that Q&A interpretation, there's stuff that's like lost in translation. Like you just can't help that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's nuances, and like there's,
Yes.
especially if it's like a complicated question with a more complex answer. It's hard to
Mm.
kind of package all of that,
Sure.
right? So I felt like I couldn't say no, because my plan was already to go to her screening anyway on
Yeah.
Thursday. Because that was like, if anything, that was like the only form of payment, is like you get free tickets to go see her
Right.
movie. And I genuinely wanted to support her and go
Yeah.
see the movie. But that next day was so crazy for me, because again, my primary job of being a mom, like I chaperoned Ruby's field trip to the zoo
Oh,
the whole morning and afternoon
I don't know how you do
before.
it.
So like until about 1:30, I was at the zoo. And then we came home
Wow. I
the
would have
kids
been
went back to
wiped
school.
out.
I was wiped out, and I was on day 2 of my period. So
Oh,
then I went
no,
home, I
Jane.
freshened up, and I had to leave at 2:30 to get to Queen Anne by 3 for this screening. And it's like a big to do. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys don't have the planning or the budget, any kind of budget to have like a short, like you should have people on standby. Like these are our language interpreters. Like we
Yeah.
need a Spanish interpreter, we need Italian, we need Korean.
Yeah.
Like it should all be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you thinking that you can just like call up a Korean friend and have them volunteer someone and literally it's like volunteering.
Yeah.
And the reason why I said I would do it was because I thought it's a great opportunity for me to like meet this young filmmaker.
Yeah.
But you know what had me trembling in my shoes? I get to the screening
Uh-huh.
and there's members of the Korean consulate there.
Why the fuck didn't they do it?
My question exactly.
What?
'Cause
Dude, you have access to the Korean consulate and you didn't ask them?
that's what they're there for, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't this totally up there? Like, isn't there, this should be on their
yes.
job list.
And they're looking
I'm
at
so
me,
angry.
up and down, like, who is this lady, right?
Ugh.
They all come like dressed to the nines, like on the step and repeat, like taking pictures, introducing themselves to the filmmaker, and I'm like, there's a whole Korean sector, you know, audience section
Yeah.
here. Any one of you guys can come and volunteer your
Right.
time to interpret for this
That's so
filmmaker
messed up.
that you're so
Especially
excited
if
to
they knew they
debut.
were going to be in attendance.
I know. But I'm like, whose fault is that? Is that like with SIF or with the consulate? Because you go to their website for the film on SIF's website, and the consulate is listed there as one of like the sponsors or like responsible
What?
organizations for bringing the film here. And so I felt totally like, talk about imposter syndrome, Ellen. I was
Oh.
shaking, and that's when I was texting you like, I'm here. I'm about to make a fool out of myself
No.
because
But we know Koreans are the judgiest people.
they're so judgy. Myself included, right? But I'm like, I'm about to willingly step into the fire here.
I mean, you're so
and
critical of yourself.
I am
I
critical.
knew you had it. I did not
But
worry about it. I knew you were being hard on
so
yourself.
you know what was like to my huge advantage was twofold. One, that I got to go to the second screening and I had an
Yes.
idea of what kind of questions the audience would give. And that it was the second time I'm interpreting for this filmmaker because we already
Yeah.
had the school visit, right? And we had a lot of practice talking about the movie
Yeah.
and all her answers. So I literally had my notebook and I had written like phrases of like Korean phrases of what I
Wow.
would say and of her answers
Oh
and
my
how I would
gosh,
translate
yeah.
that. And then we get to the front of the screening, like front of the theater. Thankfully, it wasn't like in my mind, I was thinking about like opening night 2 years ago when they opened with Past Lives, and that was a huge screening at the Paramount Theater.
Wow.
And they did a Q&A with the director over
Oh,
there. So that's
dang.
what I was
Okay.
imagining, but
Yeah.
this was like a little bit less formal than that,
Okay.
a smaller theater. And what was to my advantage was that when we're getting the audience questions, I'm not on the microphone with her. I'm just like whispering in her ear. And all I had to do was kind of just give like Korean phrases and because she also understands like the English, so she kind of gets the gist of what's being asked.
Oh, good.
But
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
asking clarification
Yeah.
from me. So I would just say like, oh, like little phrases like, oh, 어려웠던 점, like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
some of the challenges or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then when she spoke in Korean, we kind of got a rhythm where she said, I'm going to do like one line by one line and I'll kind of pause for you to like translate. So we
Oh,
did it like that.
wow.
And it went like as smoothly as I could have hoped
It
with
it
that
was
little bit of like
fantastic.
lead time.
Yeah,
Right?
Jane. You
Um,
gave such a fantastic.
No.
They're like, see, we don't have to pay.
We don't have to pay.
We get
She's
we
gonna
get this
willingly
kind of
do it.
amazing service.
I know. I was like driving home afterwards And I had to pee like before the screening. And of
Mhm.
course I didn't go bathroom one time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when I was like
Yeah.
coming home, I was like, I hope I don't pee myself. But I was like,
Did any
one,
of the consulate people talk to you?
no. I mean, like one kind of like introduced themselves, so I introduced myself to them, but no.
Remember that the reason that when you said consulate, I was like, "Oh, you're fucked." Sorry. They are the dullest. Remember the Korean karaoke night?
Yeah.
There was a table of the
Oh,
consulate, and
really?
everybody kept saying, "Hey, that's the Korean consulate." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Come on up and sing us
Y-
Korean song."
No?
Cricket.
Oh my god.
Finally,
Were they old or young?
they were young. I'm like, "What is the stick up your ass?" Like, and I think because of them, the whole vibe was everybody's like, we're all here to like, in Korean dramas, you always see the after work
Yeah.
get together. And it's
Yeah.
wild, like, Ita, let's
Uh-huh.
go round two.
Uh-huh.
These people had sticks up their butts, Jane, and they were sitting so stiff, like looking around, judging. Like I try to pull them,
Mhm.
and I was just like trying to be like gagman-y, like
Yeah.
babe, that was
Yeah,
a like
yeah.
no, they would not. After like hours, finally, one dude was funny and sang Frozen, which I was like, oh, okay.
Frozen? Like
Yeah,
let
he
it
sang
go?
Frozen. Like, let it go, like a
Oh
man.
my.
I'm like, even their humor is
Yeah.
cringe, but whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, they were the vibe. That's why
Yeah.
that Korean karaoke night was a disaster.
I was confused, I tell you,
They're
because I'm like,
confusing.
yeah.
I don't I but it's so funny because they're like they have their chests all puffed out and
Mhm.
they like have this
They're
little
like
like
the
we're better
representatives.
than everybody.
They're like the representatives of Korea.
And I'm just like, "Oh my god, like chill, bro. Like do you know how to have fun?" So when you told me, I was like, "Please, like they're going to,
Yeah. I was
honestly,
shaking though because I was like, who am I to be here? Like
Jane,
I literally I thought about going up to one of them and saying like,
are you
is
sure you don't want to
anyone
do it?
yeah,
Yeah, like, hey,
is
aren't you
are
more
any one of
yeah, please
you
step up.
qualified to interpret the
Isn't this in your
Q&A?
job itinerary?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I'm
but they were
rolling my
just there
eyes
to
so
like
hard right
enjoy the
now.
film.
How can you fucking sponsor the event
I
and
don't know.
not like actually like volunteer? That's fucked up.
Yeah,
That is, I'm so
I
disappointed
know.
in the Korean consulate. This is gonna be a clip.
No. It's not gonna
we're
be a
gonna
clip.
we're
No.
gonna get
You'll have to
canceled.
listen to the whole episode
We're gonna get
to
canceled.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, if
Was
no.
the movie good?
The movie was so good,
What's it
Ellen.
about?
Okay, so the film is called Summer's Camera, and it is about a girl named Summer. So her name is Yeorim.
Oh, 여름의
Uh-huh.
카메라?
Yeorim의 Kamera. And she is a high schooler, and she's dealing with
Oh.
the recent death of her father, who
Oh.
passed on to her the love of photography. So she uses a
Wow.
camera as a metaphor, kind of like motif throughout the film,
Wow.
where she's like experiencing and processing everything through her camera. The
Wow.
season is summertime, and
Is it like an indie film vibe?
indie film vibe,
Nice.
and the filmmaker said she really wanted to make a light-hearted, optimistic queer film about first love, queer love.
It's about queer love
Yes,
from Korea?
yes, yes,
Korea?
yeah,
A female
fascinating.
queer love?
Yes, and it was so well received at SIF, and one of the students who from the school visit the day before came to the screening, and she was so excited about it.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I mean, her divine's reasoning was in Korea, Korean society is so conservative,
It's
and a
so
lot of
taboo still.
yeah, it is taboo, and so a lot of movies um that depict queerness, it's like a lot of dark and sad
Yeah.
tones, like an
Yes.
undertone. So
Yes.
she really wanted to make something that was more uplifting, and I think she achieved that. But it's like
Wow.
the whole premise is this girl, Summer, um inherits a camera from her dad because he said, "Oh, when you're in high school, I'll pass on this film camera, which was mine in high school." And
Wow.
so at the opening of the movie, she's now a high schooler, but she's like, "My dad is gone though. I'm finally using his
Oh.
camera." And like after the death of her father, she doesn't take many pictures
Mm.
until she meets the soccer star of her school, of her girls' high
Oh, this
school.
sounds so
And then she starts
cute.
taking pictures of her, and they have like a burgeoning kind of like young love. And then when she develops the film, she discovers a secret that her dad had. Yes.
Really?
So there's like queer
Ooh.
themes, first love themes, coming of age, like all of
I
that.
love
And it was
that.
so beautifully shot because she said she really wanted to convey the feeling of summer and youth. And she's like, summer
Oh,
is like, she's like,
yeah.
to me, the season of youth, that's synonymous with summer. So I really wanted the cinematography to be super vibrant. So I even, we shot it in the summertime so that it would be super vibrant, but I also in the editing like saturated the
Mm.
pictures. Um and yeah, it was I really enjoyed the
I
movie,
love
and it's her
it.
debut
Thank God.
feature. And so I'm so thankful that I, you know, got to meet her
Yeah.
and
Okay, so if
do
you were
that.
to do
But
this all over again, you are glad you
next,
did it.
I am glad I did it,
Okay. Would you do it again?
only if they have a budget, and I will
Yes.
tell them my rate
Yes.
because it was like
It
a
is a
good
very it is a very like big time
six
commitment.
6 to 8 hours
For
over the
us
two
mothers, that's
days.
like,
Yeah, and I don't think they knew like I was a mom because they were like, "Can you come at 2?" And I'm like,
bitch,
"Let me make
you think I
sure."
just sit around
I
and
have
don't
to
do
make
shit?
sure I can arrange my kids'
Oh
schedules,
my
and I will
God.
come at 3. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid or not getting paid any extra to come here early, but
Yes, you are
yeah.
demanding money.
Yeah.
Okay? That is
Yeah.
unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Uh
What cracks me up is when you were describing summer, like summer is you, summer is vibrant, and
uh-huh.
that's why we get exhausted in the summer. Because we are mothers and we are serving up the summer
I
for the kids.
know. Oh my
Oh, are
gosh.
you
Summer
ready?
is not my favorite season. I
Ours
want to
is
I want to take
fall.
back what I said. I think I said summer like when we first started recording 2 years ago. I think I said summer was my favorite.
No, you didn't say that. You
Did
said
I?
you were antsy back then
Okay.
about summer starting.
Okay.
I
I think
remember
like I
that.
like the warmer temperatures for
Absolutely. I
sure,
mean,
but
summer is the best season
it's the best season
weather-wise.
weather-wise,
It's when
but
we actually my joke I had a joke after I stopped contact with my stepmom. I said I could see that the sky was blue,
yeah.
but only June, July, August. Because in Seattle, that's the only time we get blue skies.
Yes,
Every
totally.
other time it's gray.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that I'm so glad you did it, Jane, to represent Korea in Seattle.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
so fucking lucky though. They lucked out. They lucked out. But you know what? This is also a problem because they luck out. They like get entitled. So you gotta be
Yeah.
like, you gotta demand money, not just for you, but all
Yeah.
motherhood and
Yeah, I
like,
mean, I was like, okay, this has to be a takeaway for both me and Ellen. Because
yeah.
I think too many times we get roped into things where we're like, sure, sure. Like, we'll MC
We're
that.
yes
We'll do
people,
that.
yeah.
We'll host that.
You gotta pay.
Yeah.
You gotta give me that cha-ching. Money, money. We're gonna demand payment.
That's right.